Handheld check. 1, 2. see.
You
It's
okay?
not quite 6.
Oh, okay.
Oh, man.
No
Sorry, ladies
problem.
and gentlemen.
Yep. She's still got a minute left to go.
Oh, okay.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Good evening. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is a regular assembly meeting for Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. Madam Clerk.
Tim Hale, are you on the phone? I do expect him to be calling in, Madam Mayor. Stephanie Nowers.
Here.
Dee McKee will not be present. Maxwell Sumner.
Here.
Bill Gamble.
Here.
Dimitri Fonoff.
Here.
Ron Bernier.
Here.
Thank you. You do have a quorum, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything that any of the members want to pull from the consent agenda?
Madam Mayor? Yes, I'd like to pull Resolution 25-028.
2, 0. Do you have that? Okay. Any other items anybody else wants to pull? Yes, Assemblyperson Nowers.
If I could pull RS 25-026.
Okay. Anything else anybody wants to pull? Okay. Are there any other changes to the agenda you would like to make? Okay. So the agenda now has been approved. If you'll all stand. And Coach, would you lead us in the pledge, please? Yes, and the flag is right here, sir. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
What you stand,
under God,
one nation,
indivisible,
under
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to ask for a moment of silence. Our community and the state has lost someone that has been very helpful to our community, Steve Brown, who was the experimental agent for the university, as well as he served on our board of ag and was very instrumental in many of the ag things in 4-H that went on. So we'll do a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So it's my pleasure to, and I'll come down. Is it on, Caleb? Yep, there it is. Okay. So just to start it off on a real light note, for many of you, you probably know that my oldest son for many years was football coach at Palmer High, and they never could beat Soldotna. So tonight, it's revenge time. So I'm very happy to honor you all, and if you'll all stand, I have proclamation and coaches want to come up. Yeah, yeah. What's going to be, where's Brad at? What's going to be the easiest? Do you want them? Yeah, yeah. Alrighty. Whereas the Palmer Moose Division II hockey team displayed extraordinary skill, perseverance, and teamwork throughout the 2024-2025 season, resulting in winning the District 2 State Hockey Championship. Congratulations, everyone. So on Saturday, February 8th, 2025, at the Saltner Regional Sports Complex, the Palmer Moose assured a decisive 9-1 victory. Woo! Wow, you guys. Outstanding. Woo! And Elijah led the charge with an impressive 4-goal performance and showing the leadership and the dedication that all of you have shown in this season. And of course, to the head coach, thank you, sir, for doing such a great job at making an example for the students as well as sportsmanship. Thank you very, very much. So now, therefore, I, Edna DeVries, Mayor of the Mat-Su Borough, do recognize you and honor you as a Palmer Moose Division II hockey team. So, congratulations. Here's the proclamation. I think you probably someplace. So I just encourage you now, anytime you hear a discouraging remark about the younger generation and they're never going to be as good as we are, remember this night, because they will be, and there's our future. Yeah. Grandma and grandpa and mother and brother and sister and family members, yeah. The next item on our agenda is the minutes of the preceding meetings. We've had our regular meeting on the 21st of January and a regular meeting on the 4th of February, 2025. Are there any changes to the minutes that were presented? Okay, hearing none, then the minutes are approved as presented. The next item is agency reports and reports from the cities. I don't see anybody here from any of the cities. Do you want to do a report from Big Lick? Okay. Well, we've never had a report from Big Lick, so. And a report from school district. Thanks, Katie.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Manager Brown, and Assembly members. Man, Palmer High School hockey is a tough act to follow, but I was glad I was here for it tonight. It is impossible for me personally to believe that this time last year we were preparing for Arctic Winter Games, and I am sure glad it's not happening in Matsu this winter. It would have presented us with some additional challenges that we really didn't need. But it also reminds me that coming up are a few activities going on in the school district. Last month, the month of February, was CTE Appreciation Month. We had lots of opportunities to celebrate all of the career and technical education opportunities we have in our school district. And one celebration that we had was Employee of the Month for the month of February was Shawnee Glenn, who runs the CNA program at Career and Technical High School and has been doing that for, I think, in advance of 20 years. In fact, I think her program predates the school. So we were really happy to be able to celebrate her and the unique program that she offers to students in the Matsu. It's just one example of CTE happening in a lot of locations. March is Youth Art Month, so you'll see lots of posts on the Facebook page celebrating art in our schools and art happening in classrooms across the district. We also, as a reminder, spring break will be next week. There's no school on Friday and no school next week. That also marks the end of the third quarter. Believe it or not, we're in sort of the final stretch. And then the last reminder is just that the regular school board meeting will be taking place tomorrow at 6 o'clock at the Central Administration Building. Our primary agenda will be the board's first look at the FY26 budget. So we'll have a lot of information presentation to provide to them. They will consider a preliminary look tomorrow. We'll present the budget again on the 19th. And then, of course, we look forward to the opportunity to share some of those details with the Assembly at the joint meeting coming up at the end of the month. So thank you for the opportunity to provide an update. Lots of great things going on in Matsu schools. And if there are questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions? And to remind you, the very last Tuesday of March, we will be meeting as a group with the school board.
Thank
that
you,
doesn't
and go Moose.
Thank you. Well, see, there was another Palmer lady, right? Glenn, Doug Glenn's wife. Yeah. So tonight's Palmer night. There you go. Every night. Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. Representatives or Assemblyperson Sumner there, yes, either didn't hear you or he is ignoring you. I don't see Todd, so I guess we probably don't have a report from the state of Alaska. We do have a report from the school board and school assembly on school issues. And go ahead. Assemblyperson Mowers.
Yeah, we had a meeting on Monday. Most of the time we were talking about potential budget scenarios and looking at a deficit of 46 million, 28 million, 22 million, and 1 million, depending on what the legislature decides to do. So a lot of uncertainty. I think the 22 million figure was if the one-time $680, okay, good, Katie's backing me up, funding that happened last year happens. So even with that, there's some deficit issues we're looking at. There's also some uncertainty at the federal level, what's going to happen with the federal education funding. So we discussed that a bit. I think these are things that will be on our agenda to talk about at the meeting at the end of March. Another portion of that was just pupil transportation. Our busing system we have a really large area to cover for the amount of students we have. So that was a large portion of the conversation. We also got an update on the Matsu Central Schools. You know, we have a ribbon cutting coming up on April 4th, so that's very exciting. I think everybody has the information about that. And then there's an annual safety week. The school district is holding from March 24th to March 28th. So you can mark that. And then I would just mention Shawnee Glenn, who was recognized. I was at that meeting. Her husband, Doug Glenn, serves on our planning commission, and they are just among the many people in the valley that really give back to it. So it was really neat to see her honored for those years of work, and it's just a feel-good kind of situation. So hopefully I caught everything. Max will Back me up if I forgot something.
I can confirm that's what we talked about.
Any other questions or comments about the report? Let the record show that Assemblyperson Bernier arrived in person at 6:14. Okay. And are there any public relations report? Oh, before we pass school, I just, please pass on to Dr. Trainee. He did excellent today at Wasilla Chamber. It was very well received, packed out crowd. In fact, Jessica, the executive director, got after everybody because they hadn't made reservations, and so they had to set up additional chairs and things. So anyway, he did excellent. It was well received. Thank you. Are there any public relations reports? Okay. And Mr. Brown, do you have a report for us, sir?
I do, Madam Mayor. I'm going to invite Captain Gorn. He is the detachment commander for the Alaska State Troopers out here in the Valley. And so if you recall, the Assembly had asked. See, that's great. You get that. You get applause before you even said a word.
Yeah.
But if you recall, the Assembly had asked for some touch points with the troopers. So I appreciate Captain Gorn and Lieutenant Cronin coming out and making themselves available, provide a short update, and then take any questions you might have. With that said, the floor is yours. Be sure to turn the mic on.
There you go.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Manager Brown, and Assembly members. Last time we were here, we gave an update with some annual statistics and just some additional information. I'm glad to take some questions at the end here, but instead of annual statistics, because while they're annually giving once a year, that'll come later in the year, and I'll provide more of a state of B detachment here for your troopers that serve in the Mat-Su Valley. This is Lieutenant Tim Cronin. He's my deputy commander, and he is in charge of our patrol operations, and he'll talk a little bit about that as well. So I guess just for a quick reminder, the troopers that serve here in the Mat-Su Valley work from the Knik Bridges east to about Eureka, and then north on the Parks Highway about 50 miles past Trapper Creek, and everywhere in between, Butte, Knik, Fairview, etc. So that is our area of operations, which is pertinent to you. I guess I'll start out with one of the main things that's kind of changed since last time we talked. It is budget season, and for FY26, Commissioner Cockrell is working towards reestablishing a post in the Upper Sioux near Trapper Creek to serve the communities of Trapper Creek, Talkeetna, and Willow. That post was closed, about 9 years ago now, and we've been working ever since to try to reestablish that. The calls for service that we do have there, absolutely 100% call for there to be a post in the Upper Sioux, and those communities would greatly benefit from it. So we are continuing down that path in an effort to get that officially in the budget, which would be obviously great for those communities, reduce call response times, et cetera.
Excellent.
So that is a significant change since we last talked. The staff the post would potentially have a sergeant, 3 troopers, a wildlife trooper, and civilian staff to support the post. That's the ask. Let's see here. Now, staffing. Last time we talked, staffing was a significant struggle. It's hard to get good state troopers, retain state troopers, but we're trending in the right direction. So we currently have 7 recruits in field training right now, which is excellent. The field training program is quite extensive. It's about 4 months long, and we are roughly 2/3 of the way through that for this group. So in a couple short months, hopefully we'll have 7 new state troopers driving their own vehicles, responding to calls for service for the communities we have here in the Mat-Su. We do have some troopers that are pending transfer out. We currently have a few vacancies, but we also have 3 transfers pending in, and another 6 state trooper recruits down in Sitka that will be stationed here when they graduate from the academy.
Right.
So we are absolutely trending in the right direction for staffing here in B detachment in the Mat-Su Valley.
Right.
I'm happy to say that continue to have a pretty strong relationship with borough entities. I'm very proud of our relationship with borough EMS. We work very well together. We respond to calls for service every day, and we work through challenges together. And I'm very thankful for the relationship that I have with Director Barkley. It's very strong. We continue to meet with borough code compliance quarterly to help solve some problems. I believe that's mutually beneficial and is paying dividends directly to our community members. And I'm going to call Lieutenant Cronin up here to provide a little bit of information on the patrol operations.
Good evening. So I'll keep this relatively brief, but as you guys see outside, we've got warm temperatures and no snow. So B detachment is starting to transition somewhat to a summer call type pattern. So already all the shifts are discussing that. Less people huddled up in their houses, more people out on the road doing criminal justice related events. So that's something that we're responding to fairly frequently. One thing that generally gets a lot of public attention is overdoses. Just to touch on that briefly, these come in waves. We investigate each one, fatal or non-fatal. It is not uncommon for us to have a group of them at a time. So just a reminder about that. If we get 5 in a row, we try and make it known to the public. We do want people who might become victims of such, hot batches, we call them, of drugs in the area. We like to notify people of that, both through word of mouth, social media, press releases, etc. But being that we are close to Anchorage, which is the source location for most narcotics in the valley, the way it generally works is we get a hot batch in, we experience a bunch of overdoses in a short period of time, it gets a lot of public attention, and then it dies down for a while. So if we do happen upon one instance like that, which we just had recently, most were non-fatal, but it'll then die down for a little bit. MVC, so motor vehicle collisions, with this warm weather and lack of snow. Normally a lot of snow will cause collisions. Right now, lack of snow will be something that causes collisions. People are out there driving fast, following too closely, driving like it's summer. So that's something that we're routinely responding to. We're trying, as calls allow, to conduct traffic enforcement, try and educate people on seatbelts, speed, unsafe driving behavior, etc. If we do have a serious collision that we have to investigate, the use of drones has been rather prolific for us, and it's greatly reduced the amount of time that we have to close roadways. It's not uncommon for us to be able to get a serious or fatal motor vehicle collision, the road closed and opened within an hour and a half or so. We obviously have our I's we got to dot and our T's we got to cross, especially when there's a criminal nexus to a collision, but we're working our best to, gone are the days of 6-hour closures, and we're now getting that much shorter and trying to get the roads back open. Proactive enforcement. The captain talked about staffing and how we're trending in the right direction. If this trend continues, then we're going to look at a greater ability to conduct proactive enforcement. Right now, a lot of the troopers, they're often going call to call, so they're doing proactive traffic enforcement or criminal enforcement in between calls for service. If we continue trending this direction, that gives us a greater likelihood of being able to do increased traffic enforcement and thus reducing serious injury or fatal collisions. More drug enforcement at the patrol level in the form of street level interdictions. Through those, we work hand in hand with the statewide drug enforcement unit and help take down larger drug trafficking organizations. And then follow up on existing cases, which at the current time can be difficult at times with call volume and our staffing. Finally, the criminal suppression unit, which I was actually a member of here in the Valley from 2014 to 2018. At the time, huge focus on burglaries, thefts, armed robberies, stuff like that. We're eyeing a return of that, hopefully, if the trend in manpower continues in the fall. Unknown exactly how that mission will look if it involves other types of proactive enforcement with it, but we'd like to try and bring that back, staffing, if staffing allows. So obviously, first thing that matters is when someone calls 911, we've got troopers to respond to it, but once we have enough in the field and we can start putting criminal suppression unit back together, that is our goal. That's my only update.
Okay, questions? Any questions or comments from the Assembly Person Hours?
Just thank you for your service to the community and taking time out of your schedules and family lives to come give us an update tonight. And it's good to hear that the staffing levels are coming up. Thank you.
Anything else? Assembly Person.
Thank you for your
Renee?
service as well. And plug AK Tips. That's a very helpful thing that you guys need to push.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Assembly Person Fauna.
Quick question. On some of the community councils that I go to, they had expressed frustration with when they see what are known potentially the points where are drugs being exchanged or where people meet and they call in and they seem like they're not getting response. What is your advice on what it should concerned citizens should do, and what is eventually going to help you guys out to work on that?
Thank you for the question. We can't be everywhere at once. People calls always have and always will be more important than a non-person type call. We need to respond to in-person violence. We need to get to collisions to keep the roadways open and keep it safe out there. So sometimes if we have a drug tip or something like that, we can't respond immediately. Law enforcement is something that it's very difficult to do more with less. You do more with more, oftentimes in law enforcement. So as we get more positions filled, as we get more troopers out on the road, I sure hope that we can respond to more of those types of calls faster, more appropriately, and ensure that we contact those people who are calling them in. But I do hope that people continue to call and provide tips. And just because we don't respond doesn't mean that that tip doesn't make it somewhere like the drug unit, where they could be, actively pursuing an investigation.
Assembly Person Gamble.
I also want to thank you for your service, and I want to thank you for your help with the Big Lake Motel situation. My phone has finally quit ringing off the hooks. It went from a very, very bad situation to a good situation. And the testimony that you gave earlier about working with code compliance and even Director Barkley and emergency services, I think that synergy between the different services is much appreciated. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And you're absolutely correct that that was a collaborative effort, and it would not have come together without that collaborative effort. So that was an excellent relationship with the borough and the state troopers.
Okay. Well, I'll add my thank you to both of you, not only for coming, but for just what you do for our community and keeping us safe. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a safe evening.
Okay. And that's all you have, sir? Okay. Mr. Attorney, report?
Nothing of note to report tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
The clerk's report is in your red folders. It's got the meeting scheduled through the end of May, and also attached to the clerk's report is next Tuesday's joint meeting with the Planning Commission.
All righty. Next item is citizens and other correspondence. Are there any comments on the citizens and other correspondence? Okay, seeing none, then they are presented. The next item is Madam Clerk.
I am 25044, reporting the conclusion of contract number 23126B with Western Construction and Equipment for a total contract amount of $495,704.71 for the Big Rock Road improvements. I am 25049, reporting the conclusion of contract for bid 21150B with Roger Hickle Contracting for a final contract amount of $36,196,452 to construct Houston Middle School. IM 25052, reporting the conclusion of contract number 23078B with OT Enterprises for a total contract amount of $478,524.75 for the English Bay Drive Resolution Bay Circle and Katmai Court Road Improvement Project. IM 25058, reporting the conclusion of contract for bid 24077B with Pro Built for a final contract amount of $293,482 for the design build to remodel Station 79.
Okay, are there any comments on the IMs? Okay, seeing none, then they are presented. The next item we have is audience participation, and it looks like we probably have a sign-up sheet. So we'll take those people first, and then it'll be open for anyone else. Okay, thank you. So Sam? Yeah, if you'll come up, and the mic is already on, sir, and state your name, and then go ahead and talk to us.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. My name is Sam Tanksley. I had actually corresponded with Mayor Edna, I think last year and recently within the last couple of months. Had a couple things I wanted to talk about, but I want to take my time and present myself. And one of the things that I wanted to discuss was property tax. And it was more difficult when we were living in Anchorage to get in touch with people. So I do want to thank all of you guys, because when I got in contact with Mayor Edna and other members of the Assembly and Legislature, it was much easier to find information about what I wanted to talk about. And so my biggest concern was that if you buy property, like if I buy an axe from a hardware store, if I buy a vehicle from a dealership, once I pay it off, I'm not expected to continue making payments on it. And so I don't object everywhere tax dollars go. I like the gentleman who just spoke for me. I'm very glad people like that exist. I'm fourth generation. My grandfather fought in Vietnam. My great-grandfather fought in World War II. My father was air defense artillery. My mother did 20 years in the military. So I definitely believe in supporting our military. I definitely believe in supporting our first responders. And I definitely believe in supporting the individuals like you guys who actually try to make the community a better place. But I don't believe property should be an area that we pull money from for tax, because the way I look at it, it's not as difficult if a person owns a home and they have to pay a certain amount of their home. But when I speak to people like farmers, I spoke to some of the farmers in Palmer, I feel really bad because I can't remember the name of the larger farm, but it used to be 600 acres. Now it's about 400 acres. And one of the worries they had was it's going to continue to get smaller and smaller, because they were saying with property tax continuing to rise, it's getting harder and harder for them to pay for it. So when you buy something, I just believe it should belong to you indefinitely. And I don't think that where that money goes should be stopped. I don't think that we shouldn't contribute to it. I just feel that it would be more efficient if we found an alternative method to pay for those things, instead of going to a property owner saying, hey, I know you're older, I know you're retired, but you take this amount of money to pay for this. I did see on the pamphlet that I read that most of property tax goes towards education, which I am a fan of. I was homeschooled, but I still like people being educated. I think that's important. And I do believe that when people are educating people, you do have a better and safer community. But that's just how I feel about it. And you guys have all been doing this longer than I have. So I'm more than willing to hear people tell me, hey, this is why it's necessary, or have you looked into this alternative? But I do believe that you should speak your mind, and that's how I feel about it. I don't believe that if someone buys a home, they have to worry about making payments on it, even if they get older in age. If I buy my house and I got my yard and I'm self-sufficient, I could just retire, sit down and relax and not worry about anything that's going on. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Travis?
Hello, my name is Travis. Reason I live in Palmer, and last time when I attended one of your meetings, a guy made a presentation about carbon capture technology for as an alternative use for power. And in one of the presentations, he mentioned that some international growers would be interested for this technology in Alaska, which meaning that some international food producers and stuff like that. And it's not a coincidence that probably a few weeks after that, I heard that the governor had thrown into the idea of farm fishing. Now, people have some strong opinions about farm fishing because they think that by farming the fish, you'll be also polluting the waters and putting in invasive species in the waters. But there is this thing called aquaponics where you can both raise fish and also grow plants at the same time. It's just that the waste coming from the fish will be used as fertilizer for the plants. And I thought that it gave me an idea that because we have so much land on the Palmer hay flats and in the Ambler Road project area near the Susitna, we could turn that into all sorts of farmland. And I have some ideas of how we could better manage how to use this land if it was to be farmed efficiently. So, stuff like that. So we're in a changing world. Right now, our state's changing. Fishing has become more sporadic, and some populations have actually decreased, and there is some concerns about the future. And I'm just saying that we need to look at some alternative sources for our food security. So that's what I'm just throwing that out there, and I have some ideas. If you want to hear more about it, you can talk to me. I don't have that much time to talk about it here, but it'd be easier if I talk about it individually. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And Jackie?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Assembly. My name is Jackie Goforth. I have 6 children. One of them has a special needs, but the other 5 are all college educated. 2 of them have masters. Wonderful people. And without exception, except for one, they believe that libraries are not going to be here in the future and they're not necessary. That is what the younger generation feels because it's in your phone and it's also AI. And I happen to think that libraries have an immense amount of value, and I have applied for the library board for that reason. It's not to destroy a library, it's to help preserve it, because the woke culture is destroying it. And if you haven't read the executive order yet that was signed, saying that there's no more than 2 genders and that there's not any DEI anymore, I want you to know that that exists. Now, there is a group that was invited up here, paid to come up here, and they're from their own words, they said they were hired as a library contractor from the Matsu Borough to handle the extremists, the ones who are for school choice, the Christian-based activist puppet masters that are doing an anti-trans agenda, and they're to work on strategies to handle conservatives who are pushing their agendas through. I want you to know that is true. They were known as the Rose Group, and they were paid by the Matsu Assembly. And I have FOIA requests in to find out how they got paid and by who, because I happen to know, or believe I know, who and how. Now I want you to know, they're fulfilling a contract, and it's not their first time interacting with borough libraries. Now, I don't know what these new strategies are, but I spoke with a librarian on Friday about 3 different books, so I have a clue what some of them are. But I want you to see the new one. The new one is, they believe that having a book challenge is a traumatic for the librarian. Okay? Finding a positive to emerge out of several years of book banning feels like grasping at sand. We have watched the First and 14th Amendment rights of people be squashed, set by some of the most underpaid and overworked public servants in the country, to be called inaccurate and dangerous names, and experienced a rise in, I'm going to guess that's Christofascism, and stochastic terrorism across public schools and libraries. They're saying that librarians are being traumatized by having to read these books and speak about them to people. how is that traumatic to them when it's not to the children? So I would like to suggest for the library board that they might take out the part where you're required to speak with a librarian so that before they feel traumatized by it. I really would ask for that. And I ask for your vote to be on the library board because the last thing I want is to destroy a library. I'm a writer. I value them completely, and I need to stop this woke Marxist underpining. Thank you.
Doug?
Is it still on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just had a couple of things to discuss.
State your name, please, Doug, please. Please state your name,
Oh,
Doug.
yeah, Douglas Bartko. I live up on Lazy Mountain. I needed to talk about Lazy Mountain Road. It's about a mile and a half up Clark Wolverine Road. And then the other topic was a few things on some mushing issues. But the road now, it used to be the original Clark Wolverine Road. And then I believe back in the pipeline days, local representatives got some money to, might have been probably Senator Kutula or somebody like that, to move the Clark Wolverine Road to where it presently is now. And so the state maintained that road, Lazy Mountain Road, just as a courtesy for quite a while. During the summer, they would smoothen out the dirt road, and then in the winter, they'd sand it and plow it. But and I've been told that the state does still have some kind of legal involvement with that road. I don't know if that's true or not, but but they've quit all maintenance of the road. And during the winter, some of the icy spells, our family, we can't, to get to work, I've had problems getting up the hill, same with the neighbors. Things like the pizza delivery or the Amazon. It just, it's too dangerous to go down there. And I've been working on it with the borough. I was referred to different departments over the years. But after they stopped maintaining it totally, I thought it might be wise to write or email to Madam Mayor, and she explained to me that there's a process now, and gave me some links. And one of the links, there's 4 options. One of the links was just touch bases with your representative. I'm in District 1, and I haven't, I've emailed several times. I haven't heard anything, but the representative would just apparently make a proposal to some proposal to get the process going to, so that the borough or the state, it's probably the borough, that they can get back and start maintaining it again. So that's what I was concerned about with the road. And on the mushing, I'm with a group of people we sponsor or help organize rabies shot clinics for the mushers. And I've been working with Dr. Twami on that for probably 20 years now. And then we sponsor a small sled dog race out there, the Gnome Sign Race. What the mushers have asked, when the vet goes out there, if it would be possible to also perhaps write the ticket for their kennel license. And so the previous mayor referred me to the animal control. It was back in the COVID days, and I never had a chance to touch bases. But hopefully I could get something from the legal department that could give us a working document, just a proposal. And then I can give that to the mushing groups, and maybe we can go from there.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Doug.
Thanks.
Senator Wilson?
Evening, Assembly, Mayor. For the record, this is David Wilson. I am a resident of City of Wasilla and belong in District 4, Assembly Sumner District. Let me reintroduce myself. I'm also representing the Matsu Health Foundation. I'm their new Director of Public Policy, and as such, we're just trying to build that and maintain a healthy relationship with all our Tri-Cities and with the Matsu Borough as well, and become better community partners in areas that we can try to work together and better the health and well-being of our Matsu residents. I believe we've been meeting with the cities and meeting with the borough manager and mayor, and we would like to set up at different times to meet with different assembly folks in their districts and see how we can help. One area of sort of collaboration that I believe we're going to be writing a letter of support and testifying on behalf of to support your health powers for the city of Wasilla. I think that's a wonderful opportunity to try to expand that your granting program for the opioid funds to make sure those get distributed appropriately. But also, I know that we only have short in time, but I also want to talk upon our scholarship program. We're currently doing academic scholarships for our youth, along with vocational opportunities. Vocational opportunities are available all year for anyone that wants to pursue a health career field within the health and human services careers or allied work services like lab techs, CNAs, anything dealing with basically the health and human services industry. Due to the workforce challenges, we are able to help provide funding for those opportunities. Our scholarship programs do expire. The application period ends the 15th of March, which is 11 days. I know those youth, they're used to cramming and throwing things together real fast and dandy. So that information is on our website at healthymatsu.org. Feel free to call the Matsu Health Foundation for more information upon those scholarship opportunities. But we really want to try to fill the need of a workforce and try to keep Matsu folks in school without the financial burden and provide back to their communities. And we also have additional case management opportunities. So if someone does want to become like a CNA or CMA and want to pursue becoming a nurse, we have case managers that can also sort of work with them through that process to continue on with becoming a nurse as well. So there is that opportunity to make sure that if someone has higher aspirations in the health fields and health services, we can help provide that career opportunities for them as well. I think last year we funded about $3 million, and this year we're looking to do about $4 million in terms of scholarships and vocational opportunities in those fields. And with that, I'll yield my time. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Assembly members.
Thank you, sir. That's the end of the people that signed up. Is there anyone else? Yes, come on up. Just state your name and talk to us.
Assembly, Mayor, thank you for having me. I wasn't planning on speaking, but it occurred to me there was something I'd like to share with you. My name's Keith Dobson. I live out in the Big Lake area. Last week I attended the AI Innovation in Healthcare and Business Summit put on by the Small Business Development Council that was in Anchorage. I spoke at that event. I met with a number of people. One thing that really struck me was a company called GreenSpark. GreenSpark is working in Alaska, focused on bringing micro data centers, AI data centers, to Alaska. The mega data centers are all being built in Texas and places like that, where they require tremendous amount of power and reliable power. The micro data centers right now, the GreenSpark focus is to take excess power from regional utility companies and leverage the low cost of excess power to build a micro-sized AI data center. AI data centers are ideal for Alaska's climate because we've got abundant cold water and cold air, and the cost of operating a data center in Alaska is about a quarter the cost of operating one in the lower 48. And AI data centers are designed really well for the kind of distance we have from the users. If the 90% of the users are outside of Alaska, it's still not a bad place to send an AI workload into an Alaska data center, because AI will basically work on that workload and then ship it back. It doesn't require what we call ultra low latency. So I just want to encourage you, if you hear from GreenSpark, they come to you about, they've got 3 or 4 projects right now in the Matsu Valley. The one thing they haven't done and they haven't considered is what AI data centers do is they exhaust a lot of hot air. Hot air can be trapped into a greenhouse, and you could sandwich an AI data center with a greenhouse, and you can address some of our food security concerns around here. That wasn't in their original design. I don't think they've gone underway yet with any of that work, but they ought to consider it because otherwise you just lose it. It's just power just lost. And it could be used in conjunction with either some of the farmers out here or even consider working with APU's ag program to staff up the greenhouse side of that. The idea of AI data centers in their mind is to put them regionally all over Alaska, wherever there's trapped energy or trapped power, and which is a great idea. We've got a tremendous amount of fiber in this state, and it will bring local jobs to maintain that AI infrastructure and that equipment, and keeping us, it can keep young kids home, it can keep college kids coming back to Alaska and staying in Alaska. So it's a great idea. Just if you hear from them and they speak to you, the company's called Green Spark. Encourage them to think about putting a greenhouse alongside of it and using that trapped energy.
Okay,
thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Do we have anybody online, Caleb? We do not. One last chance for anyone else. Okay, go ahead and close audience participation. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 25016, an ordinance approving an appropriation of $314,014 from the Big Lake Road Service Area Fund Balance to Big Lake Road Service Area Road Improvement Project List. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press *3.
Go ahead, staff.
Through the mayor to the assembly, before you is an ordinance to appropriate $314,014 in excess fund balance as a result of the audit. As you know, we anticipate what fund balance is when we set the budget. Then the audit comes out and we had $314,000 more. So at this time, we're asking you to appropriate it to the Capital Projects Fund for RSA 21, and then they can add it to the money to fund items on their RIP list.
Okay. Questions of staff? Okay. Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. I don't see a sign-up sheet. So is there anyone that would like to testify? Now, when you speak to the assembly, it's restricted to ordinance 25-016. We have anybody online, sir? We do not? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, and Assemblyperson Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to adopt ordinance 25-016. I'd like to speak to it.
And did you want to speak to it, sir?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, please.
I had a conversation with Director Adams on Saturday about where this money is going and what it's going to be used for, and I am good with it being transferred into the capital improvement projects for RSA 21. Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion on the ordinance? Any objection to the ordinance? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, then the legislation passes. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 2519, an ordinance amending MSB 5.25150C, Willow Caswell Fire Service Area Board of Supervisors. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press *3.
Okay, staff, sir.
Good evening, Mayor,
Good evening.
Assembly members, and staff. Excuse me, Ken Barkley, Director of Emergency Services. So back in November 5th, the borough voters voted to consolidate Willow and Caswell fire departments into one fire department. During that time, we didn't add in there how the boards would be set up. Currently, each board has 3 members. What the boards asked of us was to consolidate that and make it a 5-member. One has already resigned, who has been with us a long time and really helped us out. So they have 5 members left. This doesn't take effect until July 1st, but we wanted to get it corrected prior. So what we're asking is, it'll be a 5-member board, 3 from one service and 2 from another that are joining for the fire service area board.
Okay, questions of staff? Okay, all right, thank you, sir. Go ahead and open the public hearing on ordinance 25-019. Guess we do not have a sign-up sheet, Madam Clerk. Anyone that would like to address the assembly on ordinance 25-019? Do we have anybody online, sir? We do not. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Deputy Mayor.
I move to adopt ordinance 25-019.
Would you like to speak to it, sir?
I think this is a wonderful idea.
Any other discussion? Any objection to the ordinance? Seeing and hearing none, the legislation passes. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 25021, an ordinance accepting and appropriating $60,000 from the United States Fish and Wildlife Service National Fish Habitat Partnership for Coal Creek at Susitna Drive Fish Passage Replacement with accompanying resolution 2516, a resolution approving the scope of work and budget and authorizing the manager to enter into an agreement with the United States Fish and Wildlife Service for Coal Creek at Susitna Drive Fish Passage Replacement and approving the time extension of the fiscal year 2023 area-wide budget appropriation for fish passage improvement match funds. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press *3.
Through the mayor to the assembly, before you is an appropriation of $60,000 for this passage. It also has an accompanying $60,000 match for a total of $120,000 for this project. And at the same time, we are extending the match that's being used to coincide with the end of the grant, which is 12/31/27.
Okay, questions of staff?
Is this
Yeah.
off the backside of church?
This is,
If I may answer. Okay.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, sir.
It's off of a Schrock, but backside of the church is correct answer, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions to staff? Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing on ordinance 25-021 and resolution 25-016. No, we don't have a sign-up sheet. We don't have anybody online. Anyone would like to address the assembly on either this ordinance or this resolution? Hearing no one, I'm going to close the public hearing. And Deputy Mayor.
I move to adopt ordinance 25-021 and resolution 25-016.
Okay, discussion by the assembly. Any objection by the assembly? Being no objection, then the legislation passes. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 25022, an ordinance approving the addition of a new regular full-time right-of-way acquisition officer project employee for the pre-design and engineering division of the Public Works Department. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press *3.
Go ahead, sir. Hi.
Good evening, Mayor, members of Assembly, Public Works Director Tom Adams. So this position will cover the right-of-way acquisition duties that are associated with our TIP projects, both from the 21 ballot and the 24 ballot. As you know, that we've got a fairly intense volume of work with those two sets of propositions that are approved by voters. This position will be purely funded by project funds and not by operating budget. So 100% funded through the funds that were authorized through the TIP program.
Questions to staff? Assemblyperson Nowers?
Just to clarify, this position is for the projects and its lifetime is through the projects. It terminates once the projects are done.
Go ahead, sir.
Through the mayor, some member hours, that's absolutely correct. That's the intent of this legislation, is a project position that is focused on these projects, and when these projects go away and the funding goes away, this project will no longer exist.
Thank you.
Excuse me, this position.
Yes, Assemblyperson Gamble.
So how long do you anticipate having this employee?
This particular employee, probably, we got TIP 21 that we've made a good dent in the number of projects going through. TIP 24, we have several projects that are probably going to last several years. Those projects that are intense in right-of-way acquisition typically take longer. I would say somewhere between about 3 years. We have some projects in TIP 21 that are still a year out from being done. So Maybe a 3-year period would be a good planning horizon.
Okay, thank you.
Assemblyperson Sumner, did you have a question or comment?
Oh, my questions were encompassed by the other assembly members' questions.
Okay. Any further? Assembly Fanoff, go ahead, sir.
Is in the past, in the similar stuff, was there a position that was established to do this, or would you already have somebody in staff who handles this kind of work?
So through the mayor, Assemblymember Fanoff. So that, this effectively, I would call somewhat of a reclass. We have a position that's vacant right now as a regular full-time position, fully burdened with benefits, that we're leaving vacant for the purpose of reclassifying this position to be a project hire. So it doesn't have it's not burdened by the full package of benefits that a regular full-time position does, with the intent that this vacant position will phase out during the next budget cycle. So in essence, we're replacing a position that we already have, but it's going to be with less burdens than a full-time position.
Is that you're gonna have a new hire for that, or is there already, you're just moving within the department to that position, this position?
The vacancy was created by somebody retiring, and so we're not hiring. We don't have a position right now. It's vacant, and so we would have to hire a new person to fill this position.
Is the vacant position eventually gonna be filled, or that's gonna be eliminated?
It will be eliminated through the fiscal cycle, the next budget. With this budget we're doing for fiscal year 26, the vacant position will be removed.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions of staff? Okay. All righty. Thank you, sir. I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing on ordinance 25-022. And we do not have a sign-up sheet. Does anyone in the audience like to give some input on this ordinance? Do we have anybody online, sir? We do not. Okay. Seeing no one, then I'll close the public hearing. And Deputy Mayor.
I move to adopt ordinance 25-022, and I'd like to just say that anytime the borough can save some money on like retirement and that type of stuff on staffing, I think that's a way to go to help us cut taxes. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the ordinance? Any objection to the ordinance? Okay, so the legislation passes. We are now to the second portion of audience participation. So anyone that would like to address the assembly that hasn't addressed the assembly in the first audience participation is welcome to address the assembly at this time. And we don't have a sign-up sheet. Do we have anybody online, sir? We do not. Okay, don't see anybody moving, so I'm going to close audience participation. Madam Clerk, we're now at the consent agenda. There were a couple of items that was already pulled. Does anybody else have any other items to pull? Yes, go ahead. Will you turn your mic on, please?
Sorry. 25-028.
It has already been pulled. And then along with resolution 25026, Assemblymember Bernier. You were
Thank you.
probably on the phone when you were there, when that was done.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't hear anything else, so Madam Clerk.
Resolution 25021, a resolution authorizing the manager to enter into an agreement with AAA Valley Gravel for the Alsop and Turin Materials District material sale. Resolution 25025, a resolution authorizing the manager to enter into an agreement with Tutka for the milepost 128 Parks Highway material sale. Resolution 25027, a resolution allocating Human Services Community Matching Grant Program funding to nonprofit subgrantees for the provision of critically needed essential health and social services. AM 2519, approval of change order number 1 to contract 251P with Lounsbury and Associates to add $40,900 for the guardrail inventory and assessment for Bogard Road Service Area number 25 and extend the contract to June 30th, 2025. AM 2520, authorization to vacate that portion of the West Independence Drive lying between North Deception Drive and North Craigie Court, located north of Deception Creek, south of Willow Fishhook Road, and west of 4 Mile Road, located within the southeast quarter of Section 2, Township 19 North, Range 4 West, Seward Meridian. AM 25021, approval of change order number 2 for contract 22143P with Boutte Company to add $15,540 for the Willowa Way, Kodiak Drive, and Helen Lane project, and to extend the contract to July 30th, 2027. AM 2522, awarded bid number 25138C to Hughes Fire Equipment in the amount of $1,520,253 to purchase an Enforcer pumper tender. AM 25023, awarded proposal number 25079P to Collins Architecture plus Energy Conservation to the contract in the contract amount of $127,357 to design school district elevator replacements.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
I move to approve the consent agenda as read into the record by the clerk.
Is there any objection? Okay, hearing no objection, then the consent agenda has been approved as read, but we have a couple of items, right?
Yep.
Clerk, okay. go
First
ahead.
one is Resolution 25026, a resolution establishing a state legislative priority requesting that the Alaska Legislature amend state law regarding the Open Meetings Act to allow local governments the option to exempt advisory service area boards from the act. It was pulled by Assemblymember Nowers.
Okay, you want to go ahead, ma'am?
So I need to move to
Yes,
adopt
please.
RS 25-026, and I can speak briefly to the reason that I pulled this. This idea we've talked about before as an assembly and chose not to do. Even though these boards are advisory, they fulfill a critical function for the borough. There's a lot of money that goes out for RSAs and FSAs, and it's something that is really directly impacting the community. So I really am going to err on the side of transparency for these boards, and I think it's good. I think to require them to meet the Open Meetings Act has the benefit of creating an expectation of how they conduct themselves and how the boards are conducted. So I think there's really a benefit there to having the Open Meetings Act on a variety of levels, just for transparency and for the expectation of transparency. And then I would just say for the flip side of that is this concern about the board members not being able to talk to each other when they need to because there's a quorum. And that has not, I will say that has not been an issue for the road service areas in District 2. If an issue comes up, they have a single point of contact. So if somebody in the community is calling and they've got an issue with a pothole or funding, the chair is the point of contact, and then the vice chair is, if they're out of town, is the next point of contact, and then they typically get a hold of somebody at the borough to get it resolved, because that's usually what is needed to be done. If they have an issue that is so serious that, and this has not come up, where they needed to have, they can call an emergency meeting. And then the third kind of case that I have heard is when they want to go do a road tour and see the roads and talk to each other. And that can be resolved with a public notice and allowing folks to go along. So given the experience I've seen in District 2, where it has not precluded them from getting work done and resolving issues, and my feeling about keeping government as transparent as possible, this particularly for fire service and road service, which has a specific mill rate and really impacts people where they live in terms of their roads and their service in the area. I don't think it's a good idea to exempt them from the Open Meetings Act.
Further discussion on Resolution 25-026. Assemblyperson Sumner, did you have comments? Sir?
Yeah, I would just like, I guess I would just like to second that. I mean, I think that we're talking about people that guide, you know, they're not elected officials, they're appointed, and these are officials that guide where the taxpayers' money is spent, you know, specifically in their communities. And I don't think we want the, even if it doesn't happen, we don't want the perception to the public that, you know, their money is being spent, the decisions on how their money is being spent is made behind closed doors in smoky rooms, you know. So I think that it is important to have open meetings for the RSA boards. And, you know, and maybe the solution to the Open Meeting Act is to increase the size of the RSA boards, as there was a proposal for before.
Further discussion? Yes, Assemblyperson Fauna, go ahead.
So this is not actually changing rules. This is asking legislation to give us the control. So if there was, I think, previously attempt to do that, it didn't get anywhere, even though this body has agreed to that. And if this was to pass, we would still have to make the change. It would not mean that they are exempt. So therefore, having more local control where local people can decide on this issue is better than having somebody else deciding for us. So when we had a RSA board count number was asking, the change was that we're still going to work on from 3 to 5 people who are those 3 board RSAs who I've talked to. I said, can we make it easier so that this will be easier? So because the argument was it's hard to find that many people and things like that, said, well, it'd be nice if we could be able to communicate with each other. If you want to strict right by the rules, which Ms. Nowers brought up, to be able to look at the whole, that means that they have to schedule a separate meeting right at the intersection, or do they have to get a special bus where people want to join the meeting, drive together, make sure, or do they record each other? I mean, it's nonsense, honestly. So if a state was to give us the ability to control that, then we could figure out the case by case, I think, how we apply this rule. That means we'll have more control. I understand that downtown Palmer is a lot different than some of the other areas where maybe you have way further distance, and with those 3-member boards, they really wanted to have that flexibility. So I think we're not losing anything by have this pass so that we could have state approve this for us.
Further discussion? Yes, Assemblyperson Gamble, go ahead.
So in the more rural areas where there is only 2 members on the boards, 3 at best, I can almost guarantee you that they're already violating the Open Meetings Act. So this would just decriminalize, I know, attorney Nick, this would just make it legal for them to do that. I think it's good policy. And I know it's a little bit different, but when I was filling out my APOC annual report, I noticed that there were several sections in there where the state exempts municipalities and boroughs where there are smaller boards from certain reporting requirements. And so I kind of see this as the same thing. We have small boards. They need to be able to get together and discuss issues. And I think they're doing it anyways. So we should just go ahead and make it legal. Thank you.
Further discussion? Okay, I see we have an objection, so guess we will. Madam Clerk, do you want to give instructions?
If I can get the members to go ahead and vote.
We do have somebody online, do we?
No, unless Assemblymember Hale joined. Madam Mayor, it is failed. It requires 4 votes, and I got to get this vote down with Assemblymember Fanoff, Bernier, and Gamble voting in support, and Assembly Members Nowers and Sumner voting no.
Okay. And Assemblyperson Hale is not online?
No, I just
Okay.
checked. I just checked. He's not on phone.
He's not on. Okay, great. I was waiting for Caleb over there, but you were way
Madam Mayor?
ahead of me, so thank you. Yes, Assemblyperson Fauna?
So just because somebody is absent, how does this math adds up that we have to have 4 votes if we don't have them?
Go ahead.
I mean, what's the
Madam Clerk.
logic behind it?
Because it is part of, through the mayor to Assembly Member Fanoff, because the Assembly Planning Commission and Plating Board were set that way by the Assembly. It requires 4 votes to take action. You don't have 4 votes on this. This piece does not have 4 votes. 3-2. So it automatically fails.
Just another question, please.
And I guess Mr. Spropoulos wants to add something.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
It's actually set by state law. It
Thank you.
cannot be changed for this body.
Thank
It
you.
says the authorized membership, so it's always 4 votes, no matter how many people show up to the meeting. It's set by state law.
Would Mr. Sumner like to reconsider his vote? It just give us control, would not making a change.
Okay, Madam Clerk, I think we're ready for the next,
Resolution
Hold on.
25028, a resolution in support of Alaska State Senate Bill 92, was pulled by Assembly Member Gamble.
Madam Mayor, I need to potentially recuse myself from discussion on this.
okay,
So I need to declare conflict of interest, but this bill would primarily affect one company that my husband's company does a lot of work with. So I feel like I should recuse myself from the discussion on this.
okay. Now, the bill, because I was having a discussion with a constituent today, the bill, as you probably know, is for companies that are more than 5 million. Right, okay, so you're fine with it. You knew that.
Yeah, the company that would be primarily affected by
Would
it
be
is the
more than
company.
that.
Yeah.
Okay,
that,
all righty.
would-
So then,
Is the subject of this.
yeah, so I'll excuse you, thank you. So we're down to 4 members, so we can still conduct business, right? Okay. so-
Correct.
Yeah, so you've already, let's see, Assemblyperson, who
It was
moved
pulled by Assembly Member Gamble.
Oh, okay. Assemblyperson Gamble, will you go ahead and move for adoption and discuss if you'd like?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move Resolution 25-028 and would like to speak to it.
Okay, now would you like to discuss, yes or no?
I don't oppose it, and I'm not really for it. I don't have enough information. The Alaska oil and gas revenue tax structure is very complicated, and then we get into the whole corporate tax versus an S corp thing, and I would just like to have more time to ponder on it. We're not anywhere near the end of the legislative session, and so I don't think we're in that much of a hurry. I do know that Assemblymember Bernier wanted to pull it too, so I'd like to hear his thoughts before I have a motion I'd like to offer.
Okay. Deputy Mayor, you're being summoned.
Okay. So basically what this is Hillcorp, when they came in, they're an S corporation. Anyone before them was a C corporation. And we were actually able to collect taxes. Well, for some reason, an S corporation, there was a loophole. They found a loophole. So for the last 6-7 years, the state of Alaska has not collected any tax off of Hillcorp. This is designed to actually start taxing them. It's the people's oil. The state of Alaska, when they sell their oil, our oil, we're not getting any income from the tax on it. This is basically a way to close the loophole, and it is designed for only oil companies that make over $5 million. So it isn't.
Not, I don't think oil companies, it's companies that deal in oil.
Deal in oil, correct?
Yes, right. Yeah, but as you saw, we have another company that we had an assembly member just have to excuse themselves because it is a company that would be affected by this?
I've got a little bit of information here I can pull
Okay,
up.
go ahead.
Give me 1 second. Okay. Alaska oil tax system has undergone many changes since the discovery of oil in Prudhoe Bay in 1968. The state originally imposed a simple production tax, but as oil development expanded, lawmakers adjusted the system to benefit both the developers and the residents alike. In 1980, Alaska adopted a corporate income tax applying to companies classified as C corporations under federal tax law. However, this accidentally created a future potential loophole. Companies structured as S corporations in the future could avoid paying the tax to the state. In all fairness to those who created this structure, there's no way they could have planned for an S corporation because that tax vehicle didn't become popular until the mid-90s. For the last few years, the loophole has allowed one oil producer to operate in Alaska without paying the same taxes as their competitors. As a result, the state has lost out approximately $540 million in revenue, $726 per resident. And the Department of Revenue estimates fiscal year 2026 will be around another $133 million, another $179 per resident, or $716 for a family of four. Okay, so SB 92 does it evens out the playing field for all companies and protects Alaska residents at the same time. So basically, it's designed to close the loophole on oil-producing companies operating in Alaska. And it's taxable income over $5 million a year. And it's got to produce oil in Alaska or transport it by pipeline. That's
Okay. Further discussion? Yes, Assemblyperson Gamble, go ahead.
So Hillcorp is one of the smaller oil producers, gas producers in the state of Alaska. And so that money that they have not paid as a C Corp may have been used to build their business because they have expanded outside of the Cook Inlet and are investing heavily on the North Slope and producing oil up there. Tomorrow, the manager, Assembly Member Fanov, Assembly Member Nowers, and myself are traveling to Juneau. I'd like a little bit more time to talk to our legislators about this legislation. So if you would indulge me, I would like to move to postpone this resolution until date certain, March 18th.
Okay, it's been moved, I'm sorry, didn't you get the date? 3/18. Okay, for 3/18. Discussion about the postponement.
I mean, we would need 4 to act, so I would support this postponement.
Did I hear something? I guess it was something else. I'm sorry, what did, Assembly Sumner, what did you say? Because I was listening to somebody else's phone.
Oh, I was just saying I would support the postponement.
Okay.
As Nick, as the borough attorney said, we need 4 to act on this either way. And then if someone's on the fence, then this would not be acted on.
Okay. Further discussion on the motion to postpone. Yes, the Deputy Mayor.
I would support this as well. I do have one bit of information from Lucinda Mahoney, Department of Resources, Commissioner, testified in the Fiscal Policy Working Group. There are some revenue options that the governor would support as long as there was support from the legislature. Some of our oil and gas producing companies are not paying corporate income taxes due to the way their legal structure is set up. We are proposing that those entities begin to
Deputy
pay.
Mayor, Deputy Mayor, we're just on the postponement. So,
That
okay,
was from 21.
okay. Alrighty, are we ready to vote? Or is there any objection to the postponement? I guess I should ask. Is there objection? Okay, seeing no objection, then the resolution has been postponed. Let me just tell you, when, on the night of the 18th, bring your bedroll. Because we have lots of items on that agenda. Yes, Assemblyperson
Madam
Gamble.
Mayor, may I ask the attorney a question before Assemblymember Nowers comes back in? Oh, it's too late. She can be here. Nick, when we go to Juneau tomorrow and we're discussing SB 92, because Assemblymember Nowers recused herself, can she be in the offices when we discuss it with our legislators?
Yeah, you don't have any action items. I mean, you're not taking or withholding official action as a body. It's up to her. I mean, if she wants to step out, she certainly can, but there would be no legal prohibition for her being there, kind of listening in on the conversation. I would caution her not to sway too much or try and control the conversation or advocate one way or the other. But as of now, there's no legislative priority. It is a pending item, and you're going down. Our legislative priorities are set, and so it would be improper for any member to advocate for things that are outside of the legislative priorities unless you're doing it in your very individual capacity, which means you wouldn't be with the group.
Okay, thank you.
So did everybody understand regarding what you can and can't discuss when you're in Juneau tomorrow? Everybody understand that? Okay. All right, go ahead.
I would just say for the record that I wouldn't want to appear to be advocating on any special interests. So it sounds like it passed. I would.
It's postponed
Oh.
until the 18th
Oh,
of
okay.
March.
For my part, I think it would be best just to avoid any appearance of conflict. So I would probably step out of those conversations. But I understand. Thank you for asking for the legal ruling on that. Appreciate it.
So since it's not a priority for the assembly, everybody will be stepping out of the conversation, right? Because this is not a legislative priority of ours.
No, what I took Assemblymember Gamble's question to mean is he fully intends on asking questions about it, to
Right.
gather information,
Right.
potentially bring back to the next debate.
Right.
And his
But-
question to me was, would it be proper for her to be there? And it's kind of moot now because Assemblymember Nowers just said she doesn't want to be there, so I would
Right.
expect she would just kind of leave.
But can't take a position.
But no, not take a position,
No,
but
not
certainly
take a
gather
position
information.
on-
And the
Okay.
manager will be there too to keep you all in line.
Okay, you'll keep us straight, right? Assemblyperson Ponoff, go ahead.
Question to Lonnie. Considering we had two assembly members absent today, I think that resolution would have passed. What does we need to do to give this back to the body to have it? Or it could be done even now if Mr. Summer was to change his vote, or Ms. Nowers for that matter, on that resolution.
If I could, Madam
Go
Mayor,
ahead.
this discussion that we're having right now should be happen at the end in comments. Because right now, we're still in the middle of business. So I hate to tell everybody that, but I think we're going down through the mayor.
Right.
It's up to her, but we're going down a discussion path until we should be going to comment and wait until comments.
Okay.
Sorry, Assemblymember Fauna, but I will answer. I promise.
Okay. Alrighty, so we are done. There's no unfinished business. There are no vetoes. Madam Clerk, introductions. please.
Introduction for public hearing on March 18th is ordinance 2520, resolution 2515, ordinance 2527, resolution 2523, ordinance 2528 with accompanying resolution 2524, ordinance 2529, and ordinance 2530.
Okay, Deputy Mayor?
I move to introduce the legislation as read into the record by the clerk and set the public hearings for March 18th, 2025.
Okay, is there any objection from the assembly? Okay, hearing none, then the legislation has been introduced. Vacancy report, Deputy Mayor?
I move to confirm the mayor's recommendations as follows. Animal Care and Regulation Board, resignation of Daniel Bowen from the alternate seat and confirmation to animal interest seat. Board of Equalization, Corbin Thurno. Local Emergency Planning Committee, Connor Kontrowitz. Park and Recreation Trails Committee, Steve Menard. Willow FSA number 35, resignation of Ronald Forsyth.
Discussion about the vacancy report? Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, then the report has been presented, or approved, excuse me. There's no other new business, there are no referrals, there are no reconsiderations. And now we are departing comments, so we can continue our discussion if you so desire. So, I'm sorry, did you want to say something, or should I call for him, or how do you want to handle this?
Well, I could go ahead and, if you wouldn't mind, I could go ahead and answer Assemblymember Fonoff's question.
Oh, okay, sure.
So there's two things that could happen, Assemblymember Fonoff, in reference to your question. There could be a motion to reconsider tonight by the prevailing side. There could be a motion to reconsider filed by 5 o'clock tomorrow, or new legislation can come forward.
Explain that again, because the prevailing side, because I didn't really see a
So
prevailing side.
since it did not pass tonight, the legislation did not pass, the prevailing side was the no side. So we had 2 members that voted no, so that's the prevailing side because it did fail. So somebody on the prevailing side could move to reconsider tonight.
Can I move to reconsider?
Thank you.
Okay, just a minute.
Let me get to the right one.
Okay.
What's on the floor right now, Madam Mayor, is the move to reconsider Resolution 25026, moved by Assemblymember Sumner.
I thought we were talking about Senate Bill 92.
No,
Oh, he jumped to that, the other one. Okay,
026.
okay. Okay.
So what's on the floor right now is the motion to reconsider. The main motion's not on the floor right now to adopt it. The reconsideration is, it takes 4 votes in favor to reconsider the piece of legislation.
Okay.
Okay.
And then I would anticipate we have an objection. So go ahead. I'm sorry, Assemblyperson Gamble, did you?
I just have a comment, or I'm sorry, a question for the attorney. So this would just give us the ability to change, right?
To discuss again, if we vote yes. If not, we can't even
gotcha.
discuss it.
Okay.
Correct. You're right.
Thank you. I'm learning something.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, go ahead, Madam Clerk.
If I can get the members in the room to go ahead and vote on the motion to reconsider. Madam Mayor, it passed with Assembly Nowers opposed. The main motion is on the floor right now.
Okay. Further discussion, Assemblyperson Gamble.
Now my question for the attorney. So, Nick, this gives us the ability to determine who has to abide by the Open Meetings Act and who doesn't. So we could actually define it as boards with 3 members or less. We could be that detailed with it.
Yes, so what this resolution tonight sets this as a legislative priority.
Right.
For the manager and whoever going down to advocate for to get us changed to state law. If we're successful in getting the change to state law, if it passes as a priority, then yes, it would allow, the Open Meetings Act currently exempts boards that have managerial or administrative power. So if you actually can make a decision on a managerial or administrative matter, they're exempt from the Open Meetings Act. So up in Fairbanks, they have over 100 road service areas. And a lot of those boards actually just run the road service area. So they will literally call the contractor themselves. Well, they need to talk outside of the meetings because they need to respond. This would add the statement, or when allowed by local ordinance, advisory boards. It's only for road, it's only for service areas, and it will only be advisory. And yes, we could set local rules. We could say it's only for 3-member boards. We could say it's only for certain situations. The assembly could come up with rules if the legislature passed, and it looks a whole lot like what we proposed. I mean, you know how it is. It could change. Thank you.
Okay. Assemblyperson Sumner, go ahead, sir.
Mr. Spiropoulos, could you explain how Fairbanks is able to could you explain the Fairbanks scenario again?
Under the Open Meetings Act, there it is an exemption, and it reads, meetings of municipal service area boards established under 2935-450, when meeting solely to act on matters that are administrative or managerial in nature. So when you are a service area board and you are meeting to act only on things that are either administrative or managerial, you're exempt from the Open Meetings Act. Now, there may be a local ordinance at play, but you're exempt from the Open Meetings Act. And what our legislative, if this passes, the legislative priority here would be to give local governments to add, if we wanted to, or when allowed by local ordinance, advisory in nature. So we could create local rules for boards when meeting on, just to give advice.
Madam Mayor, if I could add to that. To add to what Mr. Spiropoulos said, Fairbanks Road Service Area boards have more power than our boards. Our boards are only advisory only. Fairbanks is different.
Assemblyperson Fauna, go ahead.
So then to push back to Ms. Nauer's earlier argument, these people are not actually making decisions to financial. They're just a group of guys who meet periodically and say, well, I think should be our priority or not. They're not actually voting on the financial. They're just giving advice to those people who vote. And those people who vote, they don't even have to listen to them if they think there's some kind of conspiracy going on. Is that correct, Mr. Brown? Or Nick, I guess why I said Mr. Brown, because well, okay, maybe Nick can answer, but what I'm saying is advisory board, what we're asking the exemptions for. Not, those people do not actually make the financial decisions, is that correct?
Well, what you're asking is, do they always take the advice 100% of the time?
That would be one of the things. We had recently RSA 21 voted for dropping that contract. We chose it to go a different route. So this is just advisory board. So I don't even see why this is even up for the debate.
You sure? You want to jump in?
Through the mayor to the assembly. So that is correct. They're advisory, and we don't always take their advice. Like we'll have discussions around setting mill rates, for example. I will sit down and we will run numbers where the advisory board might just be looking at it purely from we want more money in the service area, right? So yeah, the advice, we don't always take that, but to be clear, there's nothing to stop them from showing up here or contacting you. So it's not something that we take lightly.
Okay, Assemblyperson Hours.
We had to have something tonight, didn't we? Just to correct the record, it's not just a bunch of guys, it's a bunch of guys and gals. But they are advisory for sure, but there is no other advisory board that is overseeing a pocket money that is like a specific mill rate for that area. And even though we can decide based on all the information we have from them as well as others to take a different recommendation, they play a really important role for the assembly and for these specific communities in collecting that community input on roads and fire service areas. So I may not win this tonight, but hopefully I have you understand where I'm coming from, that if we remove this, then that expectation is not there. So to Mr. Gamble's point, hopefully he's encouraging them to comply. But it makes a big difference what the expectation of how a body runs. And new people come in, and if the old body just kind of dropped all the rules, they don't know that hey, the expectation is you try to put it out there and make it open to the public and get their input. And so that's where I'm coming from on this, and we'll let the chips fall where they may.
Assemblyperson Sumner, were you next? Did you want to say something?
I was going to call the question, but if no one else wants to talk, then that's moot. So
Okay, so
I'm assuming there's objection, Madam Mayor.
is there objection to calling the question? Yeah,
But
I think so.
I don't think you called the question. I think we're on the
you
main
didn't.
motion.
You were just thinking about it. Okay. I'd like to ask the attorney, does Fairbanks have road powers?
No, they're a second-class borough, just like us. So they
Okay.
have road service areas, but their
They
road
have road
service areas
service. Okay.
are way smaller. I mean, they have a couple of road service areas that are literally 15 lots in a subdivision, and they formed their own road service area. So they're very, very small.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep.
sir.
Through the mayor for context, they have over 100 road service areas in a smaller geographical space than we do. We have a larger geographical space with 16 road service areas. So in some cases, it's a subdivision. That's what they're managing.
I guess my only question and concern is if we allow those boards to call out the contractor, are they going to be knowledgeable enough to know if there is money there to expend it? Because they're obligating the taxpayers in that road service area. No,
You would need a change to our borough code to do that. Our road service areas all of our service areas are 100% advisory at this point. You would need a pretty big change to code, and there are huge policy implications, as you say,
Okay.
in doing that kind of thing.
so we have that safety
That's already
net
there,
then.
yeah.
Okay.
This pertains to the state law and the Open Meetings Act and how the board can communicate with itself.
Okay, go ahead.
And to be clear, this affects service area advisory boards. So this would affect fire service areas. This isn't a roads thing.
Okay.
Question to attorney. So if under earlier proposal, legislation by Mr. Bernier to change from 3 to 5, and one of them we overlap on the big one. So if in the past, certain RSAs could be 3 and certain were 5, in the same way, would we be able to have, if this was to pass through the state, would we be able to apply it as it fits to whichever RSA board will ask us to have that exemption? Or it's one rule, or we could only apply if it's a 3-member board? Or we could actually, one RSA could get an exemption, the other one couldn't. Would anything prevent us from specifically exempting Ms. Nauer's RSA board to, so that rule doesn't apply to her because she's happy with things are, but the rest of them, maybe in Willow or whatever, needs that? Would we be able to give the option within RSA boards?
So my job as your attorney is to tell you whether it's legal, not whether it's wise. And I will only say it's legal.
Thank you.
Assemblyperson Sumner.
this further discussion has been enlightening and illuminating, and I have changed my opinion. So I'd like to call the question so we can get the vote done.
Okay. Is there any objection to calling the question? Okay, no objection to calling the question, Madam Clerk?
We're on the main motion, Madam Mayor, and if I can get the members to go ahead and vote on the main motion. Madam Mayor, it passed with Assemblymember Nauers opposed.
Okay. So we're back to we're back to parting comments, but go ahead, Assemblyperson Sumner.
If I could jump in, and this is probably a question for Lonnie. Considering that some of the assembly members are going to Juneau, is it possible to do a floor motion to add something to the legislative agenda?
Through the mayor to Assemblymember Sumner, it is not.
Yeah, we haven't had
We
any
have the
public
old May.
notice.
We
The
need to do
biggest
the
thing
public
is-
notice.
Yeah, the biggest thing the public hasn't had a chance to weigh in on something. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay, so Assemblyperson Fauna, parting comments.
No, this one was fun.
Okay, Assemblyperson Gamble, pardon.
I was going to say the same thing. Even though it was short, it was fun. Thank you.
Well, like I said, on the 18th, because that's a big agenda, so. Yeah, Assemblyperson Sumner.
I have no comments. Thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk. No. Mr. Manager, Assemblyperson Nowers, parting comments?
It was great to see the Palmer hockey team here. I had a friend whose son is a senior and was part of that team, so super exciting. And then thank you for the recognition of Steve Brown. I just wanted to add my little anecdote about Steve for those who hadn't met him, and I certainly don't know him as well as many in the community, but I met Steve early in my time in the Valley, and it was for a class on chickens. And he had a like a big rooster that he would like perch on his shoulder, and somebody asked, "Well, how long do chickens usually live?" And he had this kind of smile, if you knew him, and he's like, everything eats chicken. We don't know the answer to that. And then you think, okay, well, he's a chicken farmer guy. You think you got him pegged. And then he starts talking about how he was helping on the Space Shuttle Challenger when it exploded. And he was a GPS expert and helped them figure out where those pieces so they could recover the pieces. And he's just kind of represents a beautiful thing about the Valley, that you have these just incredible people that surprise you and are multi-talented. And if you didn't meet him, it's too bad. But you'll hear some stories about him, and my thoughts are with his family.
Mm-hmm. Deputy Mayor, parting comments?
I want to thank everybody for coming out, and I want to thank the Lord for all the good that you make and even all the bad, because you make both. Please bless our borough, our leaders, our first responders. Please help the people that are in need and struggling and sick. We love you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Okay, parting comments, Mr. Attorney? No? Okay. And we don't have any. Assemblyperson Hale hasn't showed up online or anything. We still don't have anybody online. Okay. Alrighty. And there is no executive session, so without objection, we will adjourn at 7:46 or 7:47. 7:46. Okay. Alrighty.